Welcome to Season 3, Episode 6 of the Southerners Podcast, Teacher Talks, where you can know more about your teachers. I'm Lily Wu.
And I'm Sarah Sun.
And in this episode, we interviewed Motch, a tech teacher here at Grand X South High.
Hi, Motch.
Oh, hi girls, how you doing?
So thank you so much for agreeing to do this interview with us today. We have a few questions for you.
Sure, go right ahead.
So firstly, could you briefly introduce yourself?
Okay, my name is John Motchkovitz. Very simple, Motchkovitz. I don't know why people always get it wrong, but it's pretty easy. I'm the head of the Business and Technology Department here at Great Neck South High School for many years now. I've been here 23 years, I think it is now. I'm a lifelong Great Neck resident. I'm very happy that I eventually wound up at this school. It's actually the third school I've worked at. I worked somewhere for 11 years, and then, believe it or not, I worked somewhere for 1 year, couldn't stand it. And then they had asked me many times to come work here. And finally I met with the principal and I said, you know what? And it was the best decision I actually ever made.
So what made you want to become a teacher in the first place?
All right, well actually, the reason I became a teacher is because I had great teachers in high school. And I was always, believe it or not, a technology guy in high school. All my classes I took were pretty much architecture, furniture design, anything related to technology. And I liked it so much. And I liked my teachers. I liked my teachers because they weren't like cookie cutters. You know, they were a little on the edge. You know, they were funny, they were tough, but they were still good human beings. And I said, I kind of like that. And I might like that field because that's what I really loved. And believe it or not, going to college, there was two things I was looking for. I wanted to continue to play lacrosse, and I also wanted to become a technology teacher. So you put those two things together, and that gives you very limited schools that you could possibly go to. So there were three that I liked. I went through, I checked them all out, and I chose Buffalo because that was where I kind of felt the most comfortable. And that's where I got my undergraduate degree.
So what made you want to teach like tech, or why are you so into tech specifically?
I think it goes back to my grandfather. He was always, working with his hands. He was a union carpenter, built a lot of structures around Great Neck. He did a lot of stuff on the Miracle Mile. He was working on the Chrysler estate when it switched over to the Merchant Marine Academy. So he came over here from Poland in 1906. He was drafted into the Russian army and he didn't want to die. He's like, I'm not Russian. I don't want to go fight for the Russians. I'm Polish. So he got a fake name and came over on the SS America out of Hamburg, Germany, and landed here, and then met my grandmother, and the rest was history. They had 13 children, and but he was very good working and designing and building, and I always kind of enjoyed that. I actually have a picture of him in the wood shop above the door. And the thing is, that's just something I always like to do. I feel like I was given these hands to do something important with, so I feel like creating and using my brain and my hands was kind of what I was built for.
What would you say are some of your own technology projects that you've pursued in the past? How would you describe your own work?
Wow, it's interesting. Because I always tell the kids there's two ways to look at things. Sometimes I find something and I want to make something from that piece. And sometimes I want to make something, so I have to try to find the piece. So there's two ways to go about it. Either I find a really interesting piece of wood or metal or whatever it is, and I build something because the piece looks interesting, or I have a great idea for something I want to build, so then what I do is I will get the pieces that will help build that. So I've done a lot of stuff. It's funny, all the stuff I've even done way back to high school, my mother still has it at my parents' house, like all the things I've built. I used to build a lot of big things, but I have a lot of cool mirrors that I built, tables. I would say, though, my favorite project I ever did, my grandfather built the house that I grew up in. So it was a 3-car garage, and he built the doors for the garage. So a couple summers ago, I knew I had to redo the doors. So I took the doors off one at a time. There's 6 doors because they open like barn doors like this. So I took one off at a time, did one, said, okay, I'll figure this out. So I kept making them all, and the whole summer I did all 6 doors. It took me a whole summer. And then I took the wood from the old doors, and the hinges stayed on. The hinges were perfect. Everything was spot on. And I took the old wood. I said, I'm going to clean this wood up and see if I make something. So I took that wood, I upcycled it, and I made a beautiful dining room table that's like over 10 foot long by over 4 foot wide, and it's made with the lumber from those garage doors. Very cool.
That is really cool. So do you
Yeah,
do that at home? Do you have a setup at home, or do you have a separate studio?
I have a nice garage I designed myself from scratch. Right now I'm actually working on something very cool. I Haven't worked on it for a few months. I've been very busy. But when they replaced the bleachers in the gym, on the East Gym, that summer, they told me, oh, they're taking them all out. So I came with a Sawzall and I cut a lot of the wood from the old bleachers, saved that, and then I always said I want to make something with that, because that was the original bleachers from South High. So anybody that played sports here, that's where they sat. Those are the bleachers. So I saved that lumber, some of it, and I'm actually making myself a cool like storage box out of that lumber from the original bleachers at South High. So when I retire, I figured my goal is to put like my important South High things in that box, and then I'll have that box forever with like anything important that to me at South High. So yeah.
I love how all the things you build like sort of hold memories, or they have
Yeah,
like
I'm big
some
about
used
that.
to
You know, like I think about it. Like I don't just build. I kind of give it a lot of thought, and then I try to make things like that. So
what are some of your hobbies and pastimes outside of teaching?
I like model trains, so I have a nice model train layout. I always tell the kids, one of my stories I tell them is don't be a blender. Like, don't blend in. Be somebody that stands out. And that goes to my model train set, because the figures, like the little people. So the little people that are near the front are usually more expensive and more detailed. So those might be people like relatives. It might look like somebody I know. I might put them near something, Like, like my grandfather, so he's working with the cow, or my father, or somebody else, And then the people in the back, like way in the back, like just standing on, like, say, the train platform, might be like smaller, like plastic that aren't that detailed. So I say those are like the blenders. And they might be like 30 for $10. And they just kind of get placed back there because they're so far away, so you don't really see that detail. But the people in the front, they stand out a little more. So I always tell kids, don't be blenders. So I like model trains. I like creating my own area. I'm big into like hometowns and like towns and villages. I like the images of villages, like with a main street and all that. So the nice thing is when I build, I build my layouts with, where I want my street, what kind of stuff I have in there. So these I have about 200 fire trucks on my layout. That's what I have probably the most of is fire trucks. I like fire trucks, so I have mostly fire trucks on my layout, which is kind of funny. But yeah, so I still go to a lot of shows, buy my little stuff I like. Now I'm down to like specifics, and it's good. I looked for the longest time I saw there was a car that had the marble for the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier in Washington, D.C., and it came from North or South Dakota, I forget where it came from, and it was chained down on the model car that would go on your train layout. I saw it once, I never saw it again. And I went on a search for about 10 years looking for it. I finally found it at a show, and I bought that car. I was so excited because I looked and looked and looked, and it was just, because the Unknown Soldier, that means a lot to me, the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. So I found that car, and that's like one of my favorite pieces I own.
Oh, wow, that's really meaningful.
Yeah.
And you said that you really love fire trucks. I'm sorry, like, is it? I thought that you used to like volunteer.
Yeah,
as
I'm a volunteer
firefighter
since 1985.
Oh wow.
Yeah, down my end of town,
Uh-huh.
and my whole family's been firefighters. So, yeah, so I guess maybe that's why I like fire trucks so much. Or like making little layouts. I have like 3 firehouses on my town. A lot of firehouses in my little town of trains, and I like gardening. I have like a lot of plants in my yard. I like my garden, my vegetable garden, plus my flowers, plus everything. So I have a lot of fruit trees. So I love that. That's actually on my list today. After I'm done in school, I just want to get some more flowers. I have so many flowers. I was thinking of some more flowers in a spot I want to get. So I know you want to think it, but I like gardening.
Oh, that's very fitting of your personality for
Really?
sure.
Oh, good. Okay.
I don't know, because you always seem like a tough guy, and you're like, yay, flowers. Like,
I know, right? I mean, I think a lot of people may be like, oh, Motch. But I love gardening. I love putting my hands in the soil. I think it's very important. It's soothing. Like, that's my therapy.
what is your best memory from South High, from all those years of teaching?
There's a lot of good memories. The nice thing is, I think every year gets a little bit better. It's nice because I don't look back and be like, oh my God, way back when, it was the best thing ever. Like, I think every year gives me nice, new, fresh memories. I think this year for robotics, the fact that we won this big award, tremendous award at the World Championship. I mean, because that's another big passion of mine is robotics. But this was the biggest award we've ever won in 17 years. And it guarantees us a spot back again next year in the World Championship, which is like where we always want to be. And it's so hard to get there. And there's so many teams that have never, ever got there. And we've just been really lucky. And we have such a dedicated group of students. And I think it's just, it speaks volumes to who they are. And the fact that this year we won, it wasn't even on my radar. It's like telling a baseball team, like, okay, you're in the World Series. Like, and you don't have to play the season. It's like, wait, I'm in it already? And we're in it already. So that might be one of my favorite memories so far, because it was just amazing. I mean, everybody was just shocked. So many hugs, and man, it was just good stuff.
Tough for the seniors who won't be here next year to get that guarantee.
Yeah, well, you know what? I know everybody else. I'm like, hey, you're ready to go into the championship, and you never can say that. But like, we could say that this year, which is crazy. Like, I it wasn't even on my radar. So
That's amazing. And
I'm very proud of them.
And we have one final question. So, what is the best thing about being a teacher?
There's a lot of good things, I think, but the nice thing is that I think when you see kids grow, and then when they move on, and then when they like reconnect later on, and like, oh, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, and you know, you see it kind of like help them along the way. I really think we're just like a stepping stone. So my goal is like, okay, let me just keep the ball rolling, because I think most of you are, you know, good students. You had good upbringings. Hopefully your parents and your family helped you get to a certain point. You come here, we try to like infuse you with some interesting things, and hopefully different. Like, there's a lot of teachers I think here that are very different. And I think that's really important, because you don't want the same exact thing. So I think you might go there, and hopefully people come to my class and they realize like, okay, that guy's passionate about what he does. He's kind of a good role model. You know, he's done a lot of good stuff for his community, and he still enjoys what he does. But at the same time, he can really tighten it up and get the job done. And I think that that's kind of an important thing, like to see students grow from ninth graders, or even like I have had robotics kids that we spoke with that visited us when we went to the elementary schools, and then they wound up joining our team. They're like, I wanted to always be on this team. And it's just so funny. I'm like, you're here now. And they're part of it. And the turnover happens so fast. Like ninth grade, you know, students like, you know, they don't really know what's going on. And then by the time they're a senior, like they're teaching all the younger kids. There will be more new kids coming in that are good. And, you know, you form different relationships with them. And I think it's very fortunate. I think that's a good thing about being a teacher. Because it's just, it's very special.
That's amazing. So thank you so much, Motch, for having us here today. That's it for our interview. And we hope you have a nice day.
Great time. Thank you for tuning into this podcast. We appreciate it. We hope you enjoy it. Please give us 5 stars on your rating, and we'll see you at the next one. Thank you.
Subscribe.
Subscribe, people.
This podcast is brought to you by The Southerner, Great Neck South High's newspaper. It is hosted by Sarah Sun and Lily Wu, directed by Amelia Liao, and edited by Janice Lee.